Hello and welcome to True Faith Presents the Charlotte Show Plague Special. Tonight we're supposed to be doing our warm-up for the game, which I have really enjoyed the last two that we've done, expecting a 8 p.m. kickoff against Aston Villa, but unfortunately Newcastle United have succumbed to the plague. 8, I think, at last count, positive cases. Is that right, Mickey?
Yeah, there was 8, and there's 2 more that they suspect, but that was before we got the most recent batch of test results, which I think were due yesterday, and nobody seems to have found out. None of the press anyway have found out what those results were. I bet they're terrible. I bet there's loads more.
Yeah, it's not good. So instead of doing our usual warm-up for the match, we're just going to have a general chat about Newcastle United, answering your questions, if there are any. Hello, Davey. Saying good evening there. I'm Charlotte Robson. I'm joined by Mickey Carling and Ben Wade. Thank you both for joining me this evening. You're still in Tier 3, I think. I am in Tier 2.
Yeah, it's because we live in the north.
Congratulations, Charlotte. Get promotion.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm going to make almost no use of it because I don't want to bring the plague back to my parents when I come up for Christmas. So I will be hibernating. So thank you for joining us. If you're watching us live, thank you for listening. If you're listening after the fact, if you're watching us on YouTube and you like it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I think that's what I'm supposed to say. I've been told to say things like that now by our dear leader, Alex. So it doesn't come naturally. All right, let's start then. So I just want to caveat, if you are watching on YouTube, I've preloaded some of the questions that we got through our Patreon platform. If you're not a patron, consider becoming a patron. It's about £7 a month. You get heaps of good extra podcasts, including Keith Gillespie and Andy Griffin podcasts, but mostly it's us being fun and interesting. So why wouldn't you? We got some good questions from our Patreon platform. They're really long, and I've tried to load them in so that I can put them up on the screen, and I've managed to cut off like a couple of words of all of them. So I apologize. It's going to be a theme.
At least it's consistent, Charlotte.
Yeah. You can't criticize me for that. Brian Mulhall wants to know: do we just have to accept that inconsistency, not from me, Brian, and abject performances are just how it's going to be under Steve Bruce? For all his numerous flaws, he does seem to be able to get a reaction from the team. Ben, what do you think? Do we just have to accept it?
I don't think we just have to accept it, but I suppose at the same time, there's not a huge amount we can do as a fan base to do anything about any changes. Obviously, we're not in the stadium to put pressure on, sort of vocally or anything like that. But at the same time, I'm sure they all follow social media and various other things, so there probably is still ways of putting pressure on. It's a difficult one, isn't it? I suppose that's the thing with, in terms of just accepting it. Ultimately, I suppose there's not a great deal we can do in terms of putting pressure on Bruce, because I think he's pretty much untouchable with Mike Ashley still in charge. So I think it's probably a situation we're just going to have to accept. But
I suppose it's like there's two elements, aren't there? Like, we can accept that that's the truth, in that they are going to be abject performances and there is going to be inconsistent performances, but we don't have to accept that standard for the team, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's the difference, isn't it? Like, it's accept that it's going to happen and like be okay with it. Almost is that like the second way you could sort of phrase that question. None of us are okay with it. Like, we're shit at football, and regularly we put in the worst performances in the league. Like, that's shocking, and we're not happy about it. We've said over and over again on this podcast, like, Bruce is the luckiest man in the world that we're not on the ground, because imagine if we were for some of these performances. But the final point, about Bruce getting a reaction. It is true. Like when we really, really desperately need a performance, when we've been shit for ages and things are really getting bad, and we're at our most kicking off, we seem to put in a decent performance and win. And it's happened again, hasn't it? Like with the last game, we won when we really, really needed to, when the pressure was really, really seriously mounting, and you were starting to see nothing but criticism of the manager on social media. Not that it's really any different now, but it was, if you remember before the last time we played, it was, every tweet was about how terrible Bruce was as a manager, virtually. And that dies down a bit when you win a game, and it just is what it is. Bruce is 59. He's been managing in the Premier League for years and years and years, managed a whole host of different clubs, and everywhere he's been, he's had this like tendency to just put in a dog shit performance. It's not, you don't learn at 59 not to do that, do you? Like,
he's got to have thick skin. Some of the abuse he'll have had over the years, so he's probably not unused to getting a load of grief. But I suppose the other part of it is as well is we do have some good players. Like obviously Wilson's in like unbelievable form at the minute. So while he's in the team and playing well, there's always a chance that and all it takes is for St. Maximin to click with maybe one or two others. Then he could definitely turn things around for her.
We've had a comment from Alex separate to this, obviously, saying Mickey looks like he's about to drop the biggest QAnon conspiracy theory podcast of 2020, deliberately boring background so that the FBI can't trace him.
That was my plan all along. I've been using you all as a platform to build up the listenership, and then I'm going to turn it into a conspiracy theory podcast.
Well, I listened to a long one about QAnon this week, actually. Just on that topic.
Nice that I had one listener.
It's a really good one, actually. Brian went on to say that it's not he doesn't feel that it's a sustainable long-term formula for building a success, but it's enough to keep us up, which is probably all that Bruce has been told to do.
Define success, isn't it? Like define success. What is Mike Ashley and Lee Charnley? Not that he's got any sway, but what are the one from Bruce? What are the one from this team that just want to stay up? So it is success in their eyes. It's just not in ours. But the problem is that nobody cares what we think.
That's not true. There's at least one person watching this live, so they care.
That's not what I mean.
Yeah, all right. Well, you're full of humour tonight. I just love it.
I've got plenty more. I just don't want to give any of it about Steve Bruce.
Okay, well, that's fine. Let's 17th is success is one of our comments that come in.
Well, that's exactly what I think, isn't it? Like at the start of the season, if they would have said to Bruce, keep us up, and you'll still get your job next year. Yeah.
Well, that's depressing. Anyway, okay, let's talk about the pandemic and why we are not doing a warm-up show, why we are not, as Davey said just before, kicking off about the team right about now. Do the True Faith team, so it's just us three, think that there's a reason why we are the first/only so far Premier League club to have to ask for a fixture postponement, brackets, have I missed something? I think I spoke to my dad this evening about it, and he was saying that that several Telegraph and the Mail apparently are saying that it is down to Mike Ashley and a lack of spending on testing and stuff like that. Ben, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, there's no doubt that it's an underfunded club in every facet of the meaning. I mean, it's only a Premier League club in name only, really, and the fact that we're competing in the Premier League, but you probably compare various things to Championship clubs and potentially even League One clubs, and we're probably not too dissimilar in terms of things like the support staff and things like that, or in terms of the background sort of running of the club. So yeah, it's a massively under-resourced club considering the amount of money that they get. So it's not really a surprise. I mean, obviously we don't know how much attention has gone into sort of COVID proofing the sort of the training grounds and the stadiums and all the rest of it, but it would not surprise us if again we were had the lowest budget in terms of money spent on things like that, on COVID proofing. So I think Mike Ashley does whatever he can sort of on the bare minimum budget, and I think this is just another result of that. I am a little bit surprised that it's taken this long, just because obviously we're no, but if you think we've been in lockdown since March, pretty much, well, April, and it is mental to think that it's not, considering the players they're not able to socially distance in terms of when they're training and playing and things like that. And we've seen it in other sports and things like that where they've been impacted by incidents like this. So it has taken quite a while for a game to be postponed. I thought it would have occurred earlier than this. So I suppose Mike can give himself a pat on the back for that.
What do you think the odds
made it
were?
Made it all the way to December. Well done, mate.
What do you think the odds? What do you think the odds would have been on it being us first? It being down to us.
We're obviously the massive favourites, aren't we? So I wrote about this in the special, which went out this morning for subscribers. If you're not subscribing already, you should. It's really good. It's free. Comes into your inbox every morning of a match day, and we wrote one this week. I wrote one this week, even though there's not a match. But there's not a match because Newcastle United are obviously, of course, the first team to have to postpone a fixture in the Premier League. Now, Ben is right. Like I agree. Like it's not a surprise that it's happened to someone. It is a surprise that it's lasted this long because, you know, the players are playing football with each other every single day, and if you would think if one of them gets it, it would pass on quite quickly. But the problem is that it does, and it was always going to be us because exactly what Ben said. Like we are underfunded. We're training in a training ground that isn't fit for purpose. You know, there isn't enough space. I was speaking to a few lads on Monday night about it, and like it's impossible to social distance in any way at all at Newcastle United's training ground. So for that reason, we should have been testing the players more because of what they're doing together as a group. If one of them has it and is at the contagious stage, they're very likely to infect a lot of people. Most of their teammates are going to come into contact with them every single day. So we should be testing them more, not less than other teams. But lo and behold, Ashley's budget constraints have struck again in a big way. And I think we're really lucky that the Premier League have reacted to this quite favourably for us and let us postpone the fixture rather than just losing the points, because we're only testing the team once a week. Once a week, it's a joke. Like if someone say someone catches it now, if this hadn't happened already, say someone catches it now, they're going to training on Tuesday, and that's the first day that they're presenting symptoms. Like by then they've given it to virtually everyone in the team. If we're testing twice a week, that probably doesn't happen. They probably find out before they're symptomatic. It's just mental. It's just totally and utterly mental. There should be a fine. There should be a fine for it.
And there is testing available. Like I work in a private company, and they have tests. If they ask you to go into the office, we get tested. You don't have to, but there are tests available. My friend works. I realise it's NHS, and NHS is the priority here. But my friend is a midwife, and she has now those home kits for testing at home. She does 2 a week. You have to do 2 a week. And like you say, Mickey, that mitigates the risk so much.
My dad works in IT. He's on a contract with a pretty big company at the moment, but he works in IT. He's getting tested twice a week, and in between that, there's people coming around taking their temperature in the office. Yeah. So my dad is being tested more than Premier League footballers, and my dad is able to socially distance in his job, obviously, because he works in IT with a computer. Where Newcastle United players aren't. Like, I'd love to know which other teams are only testing once. I bet it's not that many, and there won't be any anymore after this. Like, everyone's going to start testing more because of what's happened to us.
It's a nightmare. I remember going back to the gym after when gyms reopened. I think it was in July. And the guy who owns this gym that I go to gave me a massive hug and then took my temperature, and I was like, "Whoa, you've done that the wrong way around." But I was fine. I have so far, touch wood, been okay. Question from Nobby's dog. This is interesting. This came out tonight. I think Craig Hope had a scoop on the Daily Mail. Rumours of Sean Longstaff looking to move elsewhere. Would anyone begrudge him the opportunity to progress his career? This, for those of you listening or watching who have not looked, it's and it's believed that Sean Longstaff has signed a 12-month deal with an agent called Penny Zahavi. I've probably said that wrong. And he's a super agent who specializes in big moves elsewhere. Basically, you don't sign with him if you're looking to stay where you are. In that case, Ben, do you begrudge him going elsewhere? Do you begrudge him even sort of, shopping around?
It's a tough one, isn't it? I think we all discussed in quite a bit of length about Matty's situation in the team and his decision to stay, and ultimately it was a massive shock, really, that he sort of bought back in and decided to stick around, given that he barely kicked a football for the last year in a period, especially a period where there was an intense schedule and they should have been using the whole squad. I think he only played about five games or so. So you look at Sean, obviously he's had a couple of injuries, but again, he's not really he's not progressed from the player that we saw, say, two years ago in the Premier League, that was being linked with some of the top four clubs, and was seemed to be sort of the player that we might build around, build the future of the team around. He's barely getting a game now, and he doesn't really fit in anywhere. I don't really see where he fits into Bruce's plans. So from that perspective, from selfish point of view for him, I don't begrudge him at all. He's clearly he can't be happy with the progress that he's made. I mean, you could have said he was probably on the cusp of potentially getting opportunities in the England squad. I mean, you look at some of the young players that Southgate's getting involved now, and as I say, based on his performances 2 years ago, had he have continued on that sort of rise and progression that he was on, you wouldn't have said he'd be out an unrealistic sort of shout for that. So whereas now, if you claim Sean Longstaff for the England squad these days, you'd get laughed out at the place, which I probably will do. But it's just I think if he's got ambitions to play for England or at a high level competing for things, then it's clear he's not going to get that in Newcastle, especially while Steve Bruce is about.
Yeah, Davey's written, not sure that he's good enough to move, not seen enough for him to suggest he could play for a better team. But as I think Ben points out there, and what I was going to point out is that I don't think it's about a better team necessarily. It's about game time for a team that's actually going to play him week on week, I think. He's still young and there's still quite a lot of potential there. What do you think, Mickey?
I disagree slightly. I think the timing of it is a bit odd. He's kind of just finding his place in the team again after really a year and a half of struggling. So I can't quite get my head around it. But somebody, I forget who it was, but I saw somebody released on Twitter this week the supposed wage structure for Newcastle United and how much the players are on. Sean Longstaff was at the bottom by an absolute mile, supposedly on £1,000 a week, and I don't think he signed a new contract since he broke into the team, or maybe it was immediately after. So if he's on £1,000 a week and he's starting in the Premier League, it's just laughable, isn't it? Like, obviously he needs a new contract, and if the club have just dragged their heels on it and made a scene and not done it, you can't really blame him for looking elsewhere, because he could be earning 30 times that, like legitimately quite comfortably earning 30 times that if he gets a transfer to virtually any other Premier League team. Now, I don't think he could move up. The way his performances have been recently, I don't think he could move to a better team and expect to be anywhere near starting. But he could move sideways. He could move to a West Brom and earn far more than he is at Newcastle. Know he's going to play and hopefully develop his career and then get another move if that's what he's got in his head. I'm annoyed that the club have done this again, with the same, like another member of the same family. We're going to make the same fucking mistake by not just sorting the contract out before it becomes a problem. But it's now obviously become a problem, and he's now potentially looking to leave, or he's got someone that's going to hold Newcastle to a more difficult bargain, possibly on his next deal. But it doesn't quite sit that well with me, because he hasn't delivered what we all hope for Newcastle. His performances have been below par at best until recently, when he's come back into the side, and I think he's done quite well. But last season he wasn't what we hoped, and I feel like he needs to prove himself at Newcastle before he looks elsewhere.
Yeah, I guess you can only really do that if you're getting game time, which I realise he was a little bit more, like Mickey says, slotting into the team. Is the club / coaching holding him back? Sort of follow-up question from Nobby's dog. Rafa had him priced between 25 and 50 million.
Well, that was a rumor, wasn't it? He was going to go to Man United for 50 million. Like it's laughable to think of that now. It was almost certainly never going to happen. And he isn't worth a fraction of that. But he has, we don't know what happens at the training ground other than passing around coronavirus. But you have to assume that he would get better development basically anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, Lab Pedro pointed this out based on that sort of wage structure leak, if it was this week, that Sean Longstaff's on £1,000 a week and Jeff Hendrick's on 50 grand.
It's mental, isn't it? Joe Linton on 86 as well, £86,000 a week.
Oh, can you imagine? I'd only work for like 4 weeks and then I'd be done.
Retire.
Yeah, that's
it. Cheers, Steve. Appreciated it. It was great 4 weeks. Good luck, lads.
Yeah, 2 weeks of it in isolation as well.
Yeah. You could though. You could work for like a year and be like, "Well, that's me. Like, I've got a house. Like, what else do you need?"
Yeah.
That comparison, it's a good point though, isn't it? Like, because the players will all have a decent idea of what everyone else is on, and when Longstaff's looking at the performances that Hendrick's putting in this season and thinks he's winning 50 times what he is, like he's going to be annoyed. So I do get it. I get it.
Yeah, I don't begrudge him. I think David says Jeff Hendrick is a thief. I don't begrudge him actually. Like I don't want him to leave, and I think there's something very special about being from the area and rising up through the academy and then coming and playing for the first team squad. I think that's a really it's one of those like success stories that people latch onto, that people really get behind and people love to see. And I love to see local lads, playing for our team. I think that's a nice thing, and it's aspirational and all of that stuff. So from that perspective, I don't want him to go, but I don't, if that wage structure is true, and if he's not getting game time, or if he's being told, as soon as Shelby's back, you're not first string anymore, or whatever's happening at the training ground, I get it. Like, why wouldn't you start looking around?
That's one of the things about Charlotte, isn't it? It's like, it's a real shame, because you can imagine that would have been his dream, like to play for Newcastle since he was a young lad. He's finally broken into the team. Had, as I say, had probably thought he was on the cusp of something like amazing, and sort of kind of unheralded for a while in terms of this area. Like, he'll be aware of the sort of the history through his sort of childhood and all the rest of it. We haven't had many like great local lads. Obviously, Stephen Taylor and Shirley were probably the two from his sort of youth growing up, and he had kind of had an opportunity there. You can imagine to think I could be like a real icon here and sort of do some great things. And the fact that he's kind of fell out of love with the dream type of thing is like a bit of a shame, in that it's clearly gone so wrong for him in these last 2 years that he's obviously looking to leave and give all that up. It's a real shame that, again, we're potentially going to lose something that should have been like a sort of a real sort of good story for the club in the area and everything.
Yeah,
it's beyond the usual dream, man, because he's played centre mid with his brother for Newcastle. Like, it's more than anyone could have dreamed of. You're right, Ben. It's such a massive shame that it hasn't worked out, and
unless that was it, he's realised the dream and he's now ready to cash in.
He's done his 4 weeks work. I'm done.
Yeah. I played a game with Matty. We said we were going to do it, and I'm going to go make a shed load somewhere.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
None of this would be happening if anyone else owned the club, would it?
Yeah,
the whole Matty thing wouldn't have happened. This whole Sean thing wouldn't have happened. They would both have been developed as the future in Newcastle United, and they would want to be that.
Yeah, it always boils down to it, doesn't it? Actually, Sean's asked an interesting question. What are your views? What are your thoughts on fan ownership? Just going off the news at Rangers, sounds promising for them. That is, if they can get behind Club 1872. What should NUST do? What should the trust do to rally the troops? Well, personally, I'm all for fan ownership. I think football clubs are for fans. They should be owned by fans. What can NUS do? That's an interesting question and one I'm sure that we will explore. It's great news coming out of Rangers. Mickey, what do you think? What are your thoughts on it?
It's the future. It should have been the past. Football clubs should be owned by their fans. There's no two ways about it. The game would be better for everyone other than the people that own football clubs if football clubs were all owned by fans. We hopefully one day, the bubble bursts and we go back to football being a game for us.
It is the model in Germany, isn't it?
51% in Germany, apart from one team.
Yeah.
So it's not perfect, but it's enough. It's the right balance. It's balanced the right way.
The issue with that though is that obviously that's in place and was in place before the money got set. I think the big problem is that the money's got silly, hasn't it? Like, as Mickey said there, it's going to take the bubble to burst for it to become reality. Maybe this pandemic could be sort of the spark to all of that. Obviously, we know that there's a lot of financial pressure further down the leagues, and we've seen obviously this new package that they put together to try and keep clubs afloat and things like that. I mean, to be honest, all it takes is Newcastle to have a relegation, and we'll be in that pot and scrapping around for the dregs. We don't know how long this is going to happen, so it's not an unrealistic sort of proposition on the sort of near horizon if certain things were to go certain ways. I mean, I suppose it's are you willing to sacrifice the short term for the long term? I'm sure a lot of fans wouldn't want to see Newcastle United relegated, but if we did, then it potentially start to put things towards that way, because obviously the value of the club that Ashley's holding out for is the killer here. Is that there's no way fans could raise the 400 million or whatever it is that he wants for the club, even if it was 300 million. It's a phenomenal amount of money. We can't raise that as a fan base on our own. I mean, obviously Mickey talked there about the 51 stake. So I mean, if you thought of it as 150 million between the whole fan base, it's still a huge amount, isn't it? That's the problem. It's such a lucrative. There's so much more money to be made from it as well, in terms of for any prospective owners. There's always going to be that's the crazy thing. You would have thought there'd always be owners interested in coming in, because there is a lot of money to be made from it. But and I just think that's the thing as well. While we're a Premier League club and there's that whole the sort of the cash cow available, I just don't think it's reasonable. I don't think it's a likely proposition.
You do say that, but the Euro Millions tonight is 175 million, and I have a ticket, so I'll be putting my stake in. So
that's what NUST are doing, is it? You're all buying as one of the board members.
Putting
my hopes on.
I want to be absolutely clear that no NUST money is going on my lottery ticket problem. I've bought that ticket for tonight, and I assume I'll win. I'm pretty sure that's how the lottery works. You buy a ticket, you win the lottery. It's interesting. I think it's, the stuff that's coming out of Rangers is really worth having a look at. If you haven't already, it's just it's very interesting, and what can be done to thinking about it.
I mean, just on that point, I think again, I suppose it's kind of the circumstances around Rangers has again allowed them, because the money in Scotland isn't what it is in the Premier League. So and everyone knows the financial troubles that Rangers have had. So again, it's kind of the pretty much the catastrophic circumstances that have surrounded that club over the last few years have led to that. So it comes down to that. Would be willing to literally hit rock bottom to then have that opportunity to potentially buy the club? It's an interesting question, isn't it?
It is interesting. I mean, you'd hope that there's some sort of middle ground, rather than like rock bottom.
No,
Or
we've got to hit rock bottom to do it. Has to
right,
be
right. Because I didn't know. I didn't know
all
it
or
was
nothing.
so.
Ben's decided, so that's just the
All
way
or
it is.
nothing.
Ben clearly knows more than I do, so I'll trust him. Okay, there's quite a lot of questions coming in about Hendrik, actually. Let's do this one. If Carlsberg did match days, it's from Adam Morrison, one of our patrons. If Carlsberg did match days, what would yours be? Need to include breakfast choice, method of transport to the game, pre-match pint and pubs, opponents and results, plus post-match pate. Can be for an away day as well. Mickey.
Do you want me to do a home one and an away one?
Let's do a home one. Let's do a Newcastle St James Park.
Go back to the start of the question so I can
Sorry,
see.
yes. So you need to include your breakfast choice.
Breakfast choice. Well, I'm vegan, so I would have this isn't bacon in a sandwich in the house. Get it out of the way so you can just crack on with drinking as soon as you get to town. Get the metro in. Obviously, the metro is the best way to get into town. I really like Town Wall. So that would be my choice for a pint to do cracking beers. It's a great pub. There's no footy on, so it would depend if there was an early game. We could maybe go somewhere else. But I really like the Town Wall. A lot of the lads on this podcast hate the Town Wall. Alex in particular cannot stand it. He's wrong. It's just a great
I like
pub.
it there. I like it there.
A comfortable win against Man United is really joyous because it doesn't quite come with the pressure of like beating Sunderland, because losing against Sunderland is a total fucking catastrophe. So it makes the game unenjoyable. But Man United, if they win, they're better than us, and you can just like roll it off and crack on with United. But beating them is class because their fans are horrendous. The club is horrendous, and like their horrible red shirts and the Durham Reds banner that they bring every single year to the ground. Why do you support Man United if you're from Durham? It's got to support Newcastle. I'm not having it. Anyway, beat Man United comfortably, and then quick one in the Percy. Anywhere up to the top end of town for another one, maybe the Hotspur. Finish the night in Peppers by asking the DJ to play songs that you can sing Newcastle United songs to without them realizing what you're doing, and then getting everyone to sing tune songs. Greatest day.
That is a good day. Ben, can you add to it, or?
I don't think I can. I was hoping Mickey would give Peppers a shout out.
Obviously,
I think just breakfast wise, sorry, Mickey, it's got to be full English. Especially if it's like one of those if you go in like really early and you like a spoons or something, and you've got to like for every pint you get, you've got to buy like a breakfast with it, so you end up with like 10 full Englishes just scattered around the place. Method of transport for the game, yeah, just rev it and squeeze them in, mate.
I feel like there's going to be like Scotch eggs getting chucked around left, right, and centre. Yeah, the next game, by the way.
Great banter. Method of transport to the game. Horseback. Pre-match pint.
Oh my god! When you're allowed to go back to games, can I like hire a horse to bring you to the St James Park?
Let's do it.
I'll chip in for that horse as well. Like
pre-match pint. I really, really love how close the Trent is to our seats and their sort of atmosphere in their pre-games. We tend to go there pre-game, so I would say in the Trent with a continental beer like Heineken or a Estrella or something like that. I do enjoy an Estrella. Opponents,
is that Alex wearing a Ben mask?
I know. Nah, he'd. I don't know what he would. Well, he probably would do the same, wouldn't he? Opponents, yeah, I think agree with Mickey. It's got to be Man U, isn't it? The history that they've got and some of the history in that fixture. It's always a big one. And then post-match patter, it's got to be ending up in HQ, aka the Marcastle, I think. But similarly singing Newcastle United songs to pretty much any tune you can hear.
That's where we ended it, wasn't it? After that, last year.
It's a good chance. It's a very good chance.
I think it was the Mail.
Most of our nights out always end up in there for some reason.
No, it was when Roberto was here.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
That's good. I can't really top it. Mine is slightly different because my St James's Park match day experience is usually with my dad. So we go to the North Terrace first because he really likes their nachos, and he pronounces it nachos. And and he also says the U in baguette, so he says baguette.
Really?
Yeah, it's rank. So we get the nachos, and he has. I'll have like a gin and tonic, or I won't drink. Sorry. And he has London Pride, I think, or something that's like definitely going to mix with his nachos and make him quite ill during the match. And then he has a couple of those, and then we walk through that sort of cut through the uni, and then go up I think that crescent next to the hospital and the Trent, and then we usually sit in the East Stand because that's where he has had his season ticket. So, and that's my happy match day because I really like going with him. I also really like evening matches, and I've said it lots of times, bringing soup in a thermos and having that at half time to like warm up. I love that. So that.
I've just realised reading back the question, like our post-match patter is pretty like of all the things you could do. If it was a Cosberg match day, you could be like, I would go out for like drinks with like Keegan after the game or something.
Oh yeah, and
like we could have shot much higher the stars than a night in Peppers or.
What are you saying about night at Peppers?
I'm just saying we could have gone bigger, I think.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a Carlsberg match day. This isn't like the thing is our
That's just our standard nights, Mickey. Time. This is like one. This is like the one night you can get to do anything. It's like we'll still do Peppers. Thanks.
Keep it all the same, but take Keegan.
Yeah.
There you go.
The thing is that because it's been so long since a match day, the standard match day has become the absolute pinnacle of that. Like I cannot imagine anything better. Longstaff, but he said, I know you three weren't on the podcast with Luke, Henry, Morris, Edwards, but has anyone checked Edwards is still alive? I thought Norman Riley was going to explode with rage at the interruptions. I think Luke's been tweeting. I think he's alive.
Maybe Norman's got his phone and is pretending to be here.
And Norman's like dressing up in his clothes and taking like weird selfies just so that it looked like Norman Bates. Same name, sort of. I don't think Norman's killed Luke.
Here we go. Here's our cute. Was it Quano? I don't even know how to say it. I've only ever written it out. Here's our conspiracy. Norman has killed Luke Edwards.
And is posing
his identity.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that's happened.
Sorry, Norman.
Yeah, sorry, Norman. A question. Actually, I had a question from George Culkin come through to say if are weekends better without a Newcastle game or worse? Can't make his mind up.
I guess we'll find out, won't we?
How are you feeling going into the weekend? I guess without one.
I mean, I've obviously touched the wrong one. Rugby fan, so I'll just be watching rugby instead. I don't know. Like it, as you say, it's pretty grim watching Newcastle at the minute, isn't it? So I wouldn't say it's a highlight that I look forward to. So yeah, it's probably nice not to have to force yourself to sort of subject yourself to that, I suppose. So, but I guess I'll answer. We'll be able to answer that question better next week once we've got through a full weekend without it.
I'll come back to you then, Ben. I don't know. I think I still miss it. Like I really missed football during lockdown, proper lockdown, even our football.
I miss going, but watching it's just.
Yeah, the cost, like the risk benefit analysis just isn't in its favor, is it? Like, you know, we put up with so many shite Newcastle performances over the years and so many dismal defeats at home, because when you win and you can go out afterwards and like you with all your pals and you have a few pints, it's absolutely class. Like it's the best thing you get to do. But now, and Keegan and I in Peppers, Kevin, if you're listening, the invite's always there, mate, any day.
Open.
But now, like, you know, and I don't want to talk about the manager, but now when you win in lockdown, like what do you do afterwards? Like you just turn the telly off, maybe text your pals. That was good, wasn't it? And that's the end of it. Like it's not good enough to justify how shit it is when we play shit and get beat, and how angry you feel for the rest of the weekend. So I feel really quite relaxed going into this weekend. Like, I've got some shopping to do tomorrow. I've got a date to myself on Sunday. I think just going to DOS, maybe watch a bit of sport without any pressure.
Don't be silly.
I have fun. Like I genuinely feel quite relaxed about this weekend, and you don't have that when Newcastle are playing, because you're always thinking like, what's the match going to be like? Oh, we're going to get beat again. Where we're going to finishing the table after this weekend? Like, is it going to be shit? Is Twitter going to be kicking off? Is he going to play 5 at the back again, even though it doesn't work? You don't have any of that, do you?
Yeah, it's true. I don't know. It consumes so much of my time. And I'm a bit like, oh, I finished the show tonight and then I have free time. I don't know what to do with that. I'll watch a movie. And it'll be fine. I don't know.
You could watch Goal, and then it's like almost like you're watching the match.
Yeah, I have never seen Goal.
What?
I'm shocked.
I've never seen it.
Should watch it.
Watch it tonight.
There
you go.
It's about Newcastle, man.
I know what it's about. I might watch it tonight. I won't watch it tonight. I'm not going to lie to you, but I might watch it before next week. John O says, will we be doing a Christmas show? Because Christmas is a Friday. I mean, I would, because I hate Christmas, but I'm not going to force anyone to do it with me.
What's going on here?
I'm actually more
Goal. Hate Christmas. Like what is this, Charlotte?
I'm more looking forward to this Christmas because it's just going to be me and my mum and dad. Like, I find it really stressful having loads of family there. There's always too much drinking. There's always arguments, and I don't like it.
Yeah, but Christmas includes like Christmas Eve and Boxing Day. It's like the whole festive period, isn't it? Like
Christmas films and everything, and it's a great time.
Like Christmas
I enjoyed my Boxing Day road trip with you, Mickey, last year.
Yeah, it was good.
The match.
Matty Longstaff scored.
Matty Longstaff scored. Unfortunately, Man U also scored several more times than we did. Really intrigued. This is from Jono as well. Really intrigued to see what the atmosphere in the ground will be like upon return. What do you think, Bruce Rage? I guess if we've had a shit run, but if we're leveling out a bit, what do you think, Ben?
It's a funny one, isn't it? I mean, you would expect like it would be mental and could get really, really toxic. But we've seen that over periods of the last few years. Like when you think things are going to be, I always go into games where there's been a lot of like sort of pre-match talk around, like there's this and that's going to happen, and like the fan base seems to sort of like wind itself up, and then you get into the ground and you don't necessarily get the reaction you expect. It's quite a hard one to sort of read at times, just because I think, and we've talked about this loads on previous podcasts and stuff, your social media kind of hype doesn't get reflected in the ground. You've obviously got a much more mellow sort of fan at St James's. So although we might expect things, and there's obviously a lot of negativity around sort of the style of play and Bruce and everything at the minute, the reality is I think if you went at the ground, there'd probably be a lot of fans that weren't as sort of angry and aggressive about it. They're probably quite content with what's going on. So it's you'd like to think that it would be a big passionate sort of ground and everybody would be really invested, but I just think we've seen under the last few years that's kind of passion's been eroded a bit. So again, I don't necessarily think you would get massive kickoffs like you would maybe expect.
Yeah, I think sorry, Mickey.
It depends on how we go back, doesn't it? Like if we go back and there's 2,000 fans, if we're talking about that, then I think we could see it be quite hostile actually. Because it won't like generate the same atmosphere.
People are allowed in, doesn't it, Mickey?
Well, it does, yeah. But like if you imagine a scenario where like everyone gets a vaccine on the same day and we're gonna all go back at once, it's 52,000. I think regardless of how shit we are, before or in that game, everyone would be so buzzing to be back at the match. Like it's like the atmosphere is always class on the first day of the season, even if we're shite. Because everyone's like dead excited to be back in the ground after the summer. Like imagine what it's going to be like after a year. Like a lot of us, most season ticket holders, this will be the longest they've ever been without being to a match by an absolute mile. Like everyone's going to be really, really buzzing. So I think the first game will be class, absolutely class. First game when it's full will be brilliant.
Oh God, can you imagine?
Again, it depends if like you've got pubs and stuff open. Like if everyone's going to the game sober,
people won't. Man, like if the pubs are closed, we'll just go with bags full of cans, won't we? Like,
yeah, you're right.
Seriously though, like not joking. Like we will, won't we? People will be drinking on the metro and that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not going to be like, well, the pubs are closed, so I suppose I won't have a drink.
True.
Yeah, Charlotte will obviously be turning up with a like tin of soup, like, but the rest of us will have.
Only if it's an evening game. I always drink for away games. Give me a break. My dad's usually drunker than I am, but I don't know what to say. I'm boring.
You've got the chance to refresh that patter for when we can go back to the ground, Charlotte.
Don't peer pressure me into getting drunk. I like drinking after. The problem is I have a long history of peaking too early, and so if I start drinking like in the middle of the day or lunchtime, there's no way I'm drinking after the game because I will have to go home. So
you can peak again. You can peak again. You can peak again. The second wind. You just have to try harder.
Yeah, there was like when I was 18, but I'm not 18 anymore. That will come as a shock, I'm sure, to most of our viewers. But I'm a lot older than that, and I can't do it. And I also don't want to do it. I want one peak, and I want it to be after a big win.
I'm seriously looking forward to 2 peaks again. 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock. Yeah.
Here's a question, and we'll wrap up soon, I think, because we've been going for nearly 50 minutes. Can you believe it? Keith Roll says Fulham home, Brentford away, League Cup, Man City away, Liverpool home, Arsenal away, FA Cup. What sort of Christmas and New Year do you think NUFC will have? How will they do in the league and in the cups? That Arsenal away is very optimistic, isn't it, Keith? Assuming that we'll get past Brentford.
Different cup, Charlotte.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah, of course. That's foolish of me. This is me getting very cynical about getting past Brentford. I don't think that we will. So they'll kick us out of all competitions. Ben, how are you feeling about our chances?
Not great, are they? I mean, Fulham are pretty awful, but they've had a great win against Leicester. Just gone, so that's like a really worrying result. It's one of those where it's just come out of nowhere and just typically just as we're about to face them. So, and I remember draw. I think did we draw both games last time we played Fulham in the Prem? I think I remember a dire 0-0 game at home.
We beat them at the last game of the season.
But I was talking about the home games there. Sorry, there was a dire home game under Rafa there where it was literally like I think Kamara went through in the last minute and there's like an unbelievable save from Dubravka to save the point in that one. So I mean we really should be battering Fulham. They're not a good team. Obviously got a rookie manager in Parker who's still finding his way. So that's got to be a game we've got to be taking 3 points from. Brentford, I think it's the one game everyone's just so pessimistic about. Obviously, we saw the quality of the performances we were putting in the previous rounds against some absolute shocking teams. We scraped through most of those. Brentford are a decent footballing side. I don't think they're playing as well. They're not the team this year that they have been in previous years. But again, they're a step up on the other teams that we've been playing. So it all depends on how sort of serious Bruce takes this. If he plays the first team, then you've got to expect to beat them. But if he rotates, then God knows how that's going to turn out.
Surely he has to do a bit of rotation though, because of the squeeze of games.
Yeah, I know. It's a tricky one, and then the 3 games after that, we're surely going to get smashed, aren't we? Surely.
I'm going to come in positive here against what I did earlier when I Mickey's so pessimistic. But I'm actually reasonably confident about how things are going to go over Christmas. The Fulham result, you're right, but it does happen to Newcastle United all the time. Like terrible teams turn things around immediately before the players. It happens all the time. But they are shit, and Parker's not very good. Like it's not a team of worse players with a better manager this time, which is like virtually the case with everyone else below us in the league. Parker's a terrible manager, or at the moment he may grow into a decent manager, but at the minute he's not, and I think we'll beat them. It'll be a boring game because it always is against Fulham, but I think we'll beat them. Brentford I think we'll beat as well, and I think Charlotte were probably more likely to rotate in the following league game, Man City away. It's one that we can just, we're not going to win. Like everyone knows we're not going to win. Bruce will know we're not going to win. Bruce is also going to be thinking now we're in a better position in the league than anyone really thought we were going to be, and he's got a little bit to play with. He's got a chance to lose a couple of games, and it's not total catastrophe. And he wins that game in the League Cup, and we're in the semi-final. He has to be thinking for all the keyboard warriors talk and all of that stuff. He'll know that if he wins a cup for Newcastle United, he's a hero, and it doesn't matter. Everything else that happens doesn't matter. He has to be thinking that because he's from here. He knows.
So 4 more years, won't it? 4 more years of Bruce. Bruce 2024 when he wins the League Cup.
Wins a trophy. Stay for as long as he likes. That's all we're interested in. The following 2 games, Man City away and Liverpool, are pointless. Arsenal are a bit shit at the minute as well. They're Arteta's not quite doing it. They won well last night, but that was against Rapid Vienna. So they're probably more likely to rotate for that game than us. So we could win that as well.
I wouldn't fancy to beat Rapid Vienna at the minute, Mickey.
It is also that Arsenal game is away and they have fans back in the stadium.
Yeah, but their fans are shit. They're better off without them.
That is true. That's true. Arsenal away is probably the worst away day I've been to. It was a Monday night, I think, and their stadium was basically had the same amount of people in it as it did last night, and it was just really quiet and really no atmosphere. So you're right.
There's never any atmosphere. They're always the worst to come to St James's as well. They sell out, but then they just make no noise. Never have.
John O.C. foresees Bruce using COVID as an excuse for future lethargic (wank) performances. Yeah, maybe. I mean, people have these sort of long periods of fatigue, post-viral fatigue. It could definitely...
Yeah, they're going to be running COVID out their legs for the next 12 months, aren't they?
The immediate games after this, it is going to have an impact though, because we're not training. Everyone else at the minute is training and we aren't.
Yeah,
it's really bad what's happening. We'll make light of it, and I've written I was annoyed when I wrote the special. I'm annoyed talking about it now, how it's happening to Newcastle United. Of course it has, but it is really bad. Our players aren't at the training ground. People are affected for a long time by coronavirus. You think it's unlikely that it's going to be an extremely fit professional athlete that has lasting impact, but you never know.
Yeah, you don't.
Not being able to train together, they're not going to be match fit next time we play, are they? But realistically, and people are saying that we might play next weekend. If the whole squad's in isolation, if there's 10 cases, then everyone else has to be in isolation really for 2 weeks. So we're probably not going to play next weekend. And we can't train either. Like if we're out for 2 weeks in the middle of the season when everybody else is training, we're way behind.
Yeah, and it as well as this human impact of these people who have a really horrible virus. Like my friend has had it, and she's not a professional athlete, but she's a healthy, fit young person. And for 2 weeks, she was basically, let's just laid out, she would do the washing and then just to be out of breath. And that's really unpleasant. So on a human level, it's very unpleasant that these people have a really unpleasant virus, and possibly, I don't know, because of the negligence of the club that's supposed to, look after them as best they can.
Just, I feel like I should say, because I've been really critical of Newcastle's coronavirus stuff. I don't think it's down to any of the normal staff there. It's not the medical staff's fault. It's not the coach's fault. It's the people that run the club. They are at fault for this happening to Newcastle. It's not, it's not the club doctor, is it? It's not his fault. He's doing his job normally. It's Mike Ashley reducing the testing and making us. When I was young, I played for Wide Open Juniors, and we had a yellow porta cabin at the bottom of a massive field, and that's where everyone had to get changed. Like the team took it in turns, and that like was shite. That's basically what Newcastle United have now, is like a yellow metal cabin in a field as a training ground. Like it's a joke.
Yeah, it's worrying. It is worrying. And the point, I don't know how you can sort of reasonably think that next weekend's fixture will go ahead. If, as Mickey says, so many are affected and so many are going to have to isolate, it's worrying. It is worrying.
I thought for a second, Mickey, you were going to do a Carver-esque and go and blame the tea lady.
But if being serious though, if the Premier League footballers have to follow the same rules as us, anyone that's come into contact with someone that's got a positive test has to isolate for 2 weeks, regardless of whether they're then subsequently test negative. So if that's true, when was the contact? They have to miss 2 games because it's 2 weeks.
Well, you saw it with a few of the players come back from international duty, didn't you? Like Ronaldo had to self-isolate, I think, in Italy for a couple of weeks, missed a few games. So you're right. You think the whole squad, that's going to have a massive impact.
Well, that's a really upbeat note to kind of wind things down on, isn't it? I think that's us for this evening. We are now running up on an hour, and I think that's enough. We'll let everybody do their evenings, have them to themselves. And last sort of comment here saying we shouldn't have had those internationals. I agree. I think the international break was an absolutely
Jeffrey Hendrick caught it in away with Ireland, didn't he? Brought it back with him.
I just think it was lunacy to do that. Thank you very much for listening, for watching, for engaging, writing your comments, writing your questions. We are very grateful. Thank you for watching me conflate the League Cup and the FA Cup. I've gone completely insane. That's just one gigantic cup to me. Impossible to raise, but it looks great. Thank you very much again. Thank you for listening on Patreon if you're listening after the fact, and we'll be back next week, I'm sure, with more chatter. Thank you again. Take care.